And I have another way to say that I actually enjoyed the show. Just hang tight for me.
Okay.
So, this is how I feel about Vinland Saga. And it's fantastic.
Yeah.
I think, honestly, this is from the start of it being the prologue to... I can't take it serious. I'm taking it off. I'm taking it off.
You know, keep that shit on.
But,
keep that shit
so
on.
we started with our prologue, starting with Thor's and his story, and that was quickly taken from us. Then we traveled to Thorfinn, his son, aged him several times. You met Askeladd that he traveled with, and I think if you agree, he definitely gained a fatherly bond with Thorfinn and Askeladd.
No, definitely. I'm letting you get all this out, and then...
Okay, cool.
I'm going to let you go first, and then I'll go second, and we'll see how we compare.
Okay, great. So, honestly, it was traveling... Honestly, the show focused on Askeladd. I definitely think that was a...
You're not wrong.
Right, and you didn't want to like him in the beginning, and Thorfinn was an annoying child. Like, he literally cried way too much for me. And
well, he was a 6-year-old who just saw his father murdered and then followed around with his father's killer for 12 years, 11 years.
Right, wanting to kill him the entire time. I get it. I understand.
Failing, how many times do you think he failed in 10 years?
Oh my God, if I actually had to like count how many times he
That's
told
on
this
camera.
man.
Imagine the ones that he tried off camera.
That's true. Didn't think about that, but I definitely, yeah, so Thorfinn, you grew to like him. He became a stone cold killer. You know, he traveled with Askeladd, a vicious group of Vikings in England and France. They were over there for 10 years. Met Thorkill, which we'll get into because he might be my favorite character. We'll see how he pans out with everybody else. But getting near, you know, moving on, the story that you grew to really like the characters, and you got through, and honestly, the show wrapping it up and sealing it shut with, you know, the death of Askeladd, the movement of Thorfinn, like the growth of Thorfinn, and what's next to come is great. I think they opened up minimum another 2 to 3 seasons. I know
it's
that
called
would
Saga for a reason.
That would make you the happiest little clam.
Now, I know as much as I love the show, I have not read the manga, so I'm sure there's a bunch of people saying that this is going to happen in the future.
One.
It's pretty long, apparently.
Okay.
Whenever I find a show like this that I love, it's like cheating to spoil myself. I want to wait for the anime because there's just something about manga that, and people are going to hate me for saying this.
Well, I hate
anime can give you something that I don't think manga can.
Okay.
Because it gives you like the visual representation on screen with animations, obviously. Movement. That's the word I'm looking for. It's movement.
I read comics.
And the music that they put around with it, because there's a team that develops scenes, and during this scene, this music plays. And I think, to me at least, that is the way I prefer to enjoy it. Okay. So I want to save myself for the seasons to come.
You have the soundtrack. You can read the manga and turn that thing on and just...
I could.
No, I definitely agree.
Give me a good idea.
You can always get more out. To me, I know books tend to be better for movies.
My wife loves books.
You get more out of books.
Watching.
I agree. I think let's say Vinland Saga did it really well. There were 20, 25-minute episodes. Mm-hmm. They did 24 of them. I think that's a healthy amount. I think that's enough to... And the story flowed
like
very
a good
well.
Season length.
It was. And every episode and every chunk that we watched in, I'm like...
They could have been talking about a completely like trivial conversation, and you're just like staring at the screen like 5 minutes have gone by.
Yeah, and it was just...
And you want more.
I know. Sometimes... Now, I honestly couldn't sit here and tell you if there was a slow episode. There were slow episodes.
But I would not call them world-building episodes.
Yeah, none that wanted me to be like, I'm done. Right. I got better things to watch. I really was excited to get to the end of Vinland Saga. And good and bad, I guess. You want to get to the end of it, but you don't, because such a good story is pressing on about it. So, favorite character for you?
Well, before we get there,
okay.
Let me give my synopsis.
Oh, right, of how we're going to wrap that story up.
Yeah. I'm not going to repeat anything Ryan said. I just really love this show. I've watched
and
enough.
You can stop right there. That's it?
First of all, Askeladd to me is one of the best written antagonists, villains, if you will, of almost anything I've ever seen. We know he's not the protagonist. He's not Thorfinn. Thorfinn's supposed to be the protagonist, but I guess to your point, is he? You're asking the question, is he? Is it Askeladd's story or Thorfinn's story?
I honestly, at the end
It's a good argument,
of the
actually.
show, I would definitely say it's Askeladd's story. We saw more of him, because there was that whole middle chunk that was him.
And I guess to your point also at the end of the show where Thorfinn is just devolved into this, at the point where he lost to Askeladd the last time, Thorfinn has just melted.
He's a behind-the-scene character. He was broken twice. Thorkill ripped him apart.
And in the same token, though, that was when Askeladd had his confrontation with the king at the end, which was that was the climax of the show.
Yes,
so,
because we built up to that whole point, and I definitely think that.
I don't even necessarily disagree with you now that we're talking about it.
Yeah. So we'll say the story is Askeladd,
I think
with a dash of Thorfinn, and then extras.
All that to say, maybe what it was a 1 and 1A.
Yes.
So
Okay.
it was Askeladd with,
They were
very
rarely
slightly
not each
underneath
other.
was Thorfinn.
Right. They were rarely not with each other in the whole series.
Okay.
I think that was good.
I thought Thorkill was a fantastic story. You're introduced to him and you think he's just this brute who wants to fight, and at the end of the show you find out he's looking for the same thing that Thor's found, which is why he abandoned the Vikings in the first place. So for 15 years since Thor's disappeared,
Right.
Thorkill, you find out, has been searching for the thing that Thor's found.
Look.
The ironic part was Thorkill would never find it on a battlefield, and it was what he was obsessed with.
And I think if you agree, he found it at the end when he became more of a.
I don't know if he's there yet. I think he's getting there.
Okay.
To your point, he's getting there. I don't think he's got
Because he's finally off the battlefield, I think.
he didn't have his Canute moment yet. Where,
Oh, God,
talk
when
about another storyline that was amazing.
Canute went from a suspected female queen princess to a king that I would follow. It convinced me.
One episode. It's a one episode to convince you that it was real.
Because he had to. He was the same age as Thorfinn. Thorfinn's been through so much more.
Oh my God.
But then Canute, I guess, went through in his own way. His father literally hated him. He was raised by a farmer that protected him at every chance.
But he did have a good father figure.
He did.
So it wasn't that he didn't grow up without a father figure.
Well, let's say then you're looking at it from the point of view of you're the kid that now the father sent off to die, so he didn't have to do it himself. And I think that it might have flipped in his brain, and then he became a great leader, and you definitely saw his thought process through the end of the show, and he was not as good as Askeladd. I think he would get there with age.
So that's basically all the characters.
Yeah.
The plot from start to finish, basically. Animation, I don't want to draw on it too long because I don't want to make the video like 25 minutes of just us saying how good the show is, but I thought it was fantastic.
I mean, expressions were good. I think fight scenes were A+. The blood and the gore, you felt it.
You know what I felt more than anything was the facial expressions.
Right.
When the king mentioned whales to Askeladd at one of the last episodes of the show, and you panned to Askeladd at the moment after he thought he won the chess game, and
shit.
he looked like everyone in his family died like that.
They were gonna.
And to me, that was probably the best part of the animation.
Yeah.
And it was a small part, but every time Thorfinn showed rage, I was like, yep.
Oh, when he was 6, you felt it.
When he screamed on the boat,
Yeah.
the animation was fantastic.
Not just that, Thorkill's joy and pure bliss in battle was, you could see that, and fights, everything. I was very comfortable with it, I thought it was well done.
The best part of the show to me was not the animation, it wasn't the characters, it wasn't the plot, it was the sound. All 3 of those other categories I thought were A+, but the sound to me was like S
The
tier.
sound, I will say, would be, in anything, is the whipped cream and cherry on top.
Without
You have to have it,
it's
or you're
not
not
as good.
having a sundae.
I just have a really soft spot for every scene, even if it was a conversation, had weight to it because of
There was one
music.
that I specifically paid attention. Well, I paid attention to the music because of Ryan. He told me to see that was going to be a big part of anime going forward.
And he admitted that when he watches shows, he just doesn't pay attention to the music at all.
No, and with this, I don't know what episode it was, but there was one episode that I'm pretty sure there was no words for maybe 10 minutes. Perfectly fine. because you know what? It was a soft spot, a soft area of the show, and it had like violins and real soft music. And at that time I was like, all right, I'm gonna pay attention. Let me see if they speak. Not a word.
I'm gonna try to find that clip and insert it here.
And it was dark. Maybe it was, I don't know. It was there. But I think I will, for here on out, pay attention, specifically in animes, because I've learned, or anime, excuse me. I've learned.
Filthy mouth.
I've learned that is a part, and they plan it out methodically, and they definitely use it to their advantage, and really just plucks at your emotions, I think, through sound.
And all that to say, really, that the final thoughts of the show were, it was near perfection for me. There was hardly anything I thought I'd change. I mean, I'm talking like little tiny things too. For a first season of an anime, I don't know how you're supposed to get hooked.
Right, and there was no previous like saga before this. This was the first and only as of yet for Vinland Saga, and
season 2 is confirmed. We just don't know when it's coming out yet as of recording.
And I don't have a lot to base on. I only have currently so many.
You start with Vinland Saga.
Well, that's the thing. Did you ruin it for me?
I probably ruined it for you. No, I promise you, there are dozens of other anime that I think would be amazing.
I need to feel that.
Watches.
I need to feel safe and warm in my blanket, knowing that everything, I'm not just going to be sliding down a hill.
You might not buy helmets for it and cosplay the fucking show, but there's definitely good ass anime.
Okay.
So, guys, that leads us into our Layman's review. And it's no surprise at all. We talked about this before the show started.
In depth, he had to convince me
Ryan
why
wasn't
he gets
sure.
the score.
He wasn't sure. And we talked about it for a long time.
We did. We covered story, characters, just as we did with you guys. And I
asked him to tell me something that he would take off for a score that was significant enough to take the immersion away. And for me personally speaking, I did not think that existed.
The only thing I could think of was knowing that we were only watching it in 4-episode chunks, so I had an end. Not totally. It's
when your
done
biggest
now.
critique of the show was the way in which you watched it,
and that's why I agree.
It's not going to be a surprise to anybody, guys. Our Layman's review of Vinland Saga season 1 is a 10 out of 10. So that concludes our series on Vinland Saga.
Yeah, and a wrap up and
I'm
review.
pretty sad.
Yeah, I'm ready for the next one. I hope it really, whatever it be, it can be compared to Vinland Saga. And if you guys have any,
by the way,
ideas,
any time we review a show that we're going to give a 10 out of 10, I think Ryan's going to have to buy a helmet.
Yeah,
I think you're going to have to wear something in relationship to the show, so that it's a clue at the end what we think about it. If our admiration for it isn't enough and doesn't give you enough of a clue. So guys, if you like this video, like and subscribe. Let us know in the comments below another show we might want to take a look at.
Oh yeah, I'm ready for anything you guys are throwing at us.
All right, so we'll see you guys next time.